Следната лекция от нашият онлайн семинар Connect+. За мен е голяма радост да ви представя следващия лектор, който не е собственик на бизнес Amway. Той е външен лектор, поканен от Network 21 и е автор на много бестселери. Той е консултант на мениджъри на много високи нива по цял свят. Последните десетилетия той пише книги и прави обучение за това как човек да работи с страст и да изяснява своите мечти, за да може да ги преследва и реализира по най-добрия начин. Ние имаме и негови книги издадени в България, така че потърсете ги, те дори се продават и в сайта на Network 21. Той е баща, съпруг, изследовател, автор, консултант и е световно известен писател. За мен е голяма чест да представя човекът, чието мото е чието цел в живота е да помага на хората да живеят със страст. А именно от Австралия Кийт Ейбрахам.
Let's do some work. We talked about, those six emotions around achievement, but let's now really dig into getting you very clear on what you want to achieve, what's important. I told you I was going to share a statistic with you, and so we've helped all these people set so many goals, I decided to do a research project. And one of the researches that I did, I went, okay, we surveyed or got 1,500 people to send us their list of 100 goals. To be part of the test group, you had to have completed your 100 goals. And so we said, send us your 100 goals. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to hold on to them, and in 3 years' time, we're going to promise to send them back to you. And so we put them in the vault, commonly known as a folder, and we put them in there. And 3 years later, we sent them back an email saying, time's up. All we want you to do is tell us how many goals you've achieved. You can tell us the goals you have achieved, but really we just want to know a number. And obviously I've talked about this for a long time, and I sort of know how many goals I'd ticked off the list and things like that. But I wonder, am I above average? Am I below average? Am I a superstar? What it could be? Let's just get some stats. Here's what we found out. After 3 years, 42 of the 100 goals on average had been achieved. So wow. I mean, it's not a lifetime list, but people have almost accomplished half their goals just in 3 years. Now, you've got to understand, some of these goals were small, some were medium, so some were huge, like people bought a house, some found the perfect partner, started a family. Some of them were quite large, and some were just simple as, build a backyard barbecue. But there were some simple things in there. So we decided to hold on to it for another 2 years. So 5 years later, we sent it back to them and go, I wonder if they're on some sort of trajectory, or I wonder if it plateaus out. But what we found is after 5 years, 71 of the 100 goals on average had been accomplished. Amazing, isn't it? Now, you know what was really amazing? That the feedback we got from people ranged from, I look at this list every few months, to, holy guacamole, I'd forgotten all about it. Some people they redo it each year, tick off what they've done, added to it, so they've always got a list of 100. So why is it that people are able to accomplish so many with sometimes not even focusing on it? Because what we do is we plant a seed. We plant a seed that I'd like to do this, and the universe has a funny way of putting opportunities in our hands to be able to pursue them. And so, but it all starts with having this list of 100. Now, if you're following along in your workbook, we're on page 4 in your workbook, and so I'm not going to walk you through the 25 questions, but I want you to do the activity as we go. Now, when I say, if I asked you 25 questions, I can get you to 100. I'm a realist around this, if you haven't worked this out yet. There'll be some questions that you'll write down no answers in, and others that you'll write down 10 answers. Like if I said to you, could you think of 10 countries you'd love to visit? I think you could fill that in. But there's other questions you might go, I'm not quite sure if I could foot anything. And that's okay. It balances out. So I just know I can get you to 100. So let me walk you through some of the questions. And if you've got your pen and you've got your handout, if you haven't got your handout, that's okay. You've got pen and you've got paper, you can start to write something down. So your goal for this activity, okay? Should we have a goal for this activity? Yes, we should have a goal for this activity. Your goal is to get past 7. You've got to beat the Elmer Fudd dud clown that was the noxious weed inspector. Okay, so you've got to get past 7. So let me ask you the question. Could you think of 3 places in the world that you would love to live for an extended period of time? So this is a photo of Positano. Christine and I and the girls went there a number of years ago, and I fell in love with Positano. I fell in love with it. It was just such a beautiful, romantic, special place. It had a real calling for me. And I said to Christine, you know what? I could live here for 6 weeks, 2 months. I could live here for 2 weeks, write my next book. I can speak fluent Italian, pizza, pasta, Peroni. I could do it. I'd get by. Gelato, I'd get by. So could you think of somewhere you'd love to live for an extended period of time? Now, by the way, you don't have to follow the bouncing ball. You can go from question 1 through to question. So you don't have to do it exactly what I'm saying. Could you think, what would you love to do with your time if you had all the time in the world? What would you love to do? Is there a place you'd financially be secure? What would that look like? Now, once again, you can go from question through to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can miss a question out. That's okay. You're obviously going to come back to this. You can write 1-word answers. There's no right or wrong with this, but it's important that you do something here. You're not just sitting there letting this information wash over your body. This is not that activity. Could you think of 4 natural wonders of the world, or modern wonders of the world, or ancient wonders of the world, or man-made wonders of the world? Could you think of something? I'd love to go and see the Northern Lights. And I know we've been quite fortunate this year that a lot of people have seen the Southern Lights. But what's something you'd love to do? Could you think of something you'd love to learn? Maybe you want to learn a musical instrument. Maybe you want to learn I don't know, how to code. Maybe you want to learn how to write a book. Maybe you want to learn how to connect better. Maybe you want to explore your genius. Could you think of something like that? Could you think of something you'd love to do in your own country? And there's a couple of multifacets to this. I think, sometimes we talk about, I'd love to go, have dinner on the top of the Eiffel Tower, or, go on the Orient Express, or, ride horses through Montana, or, a Yellowstone moment type of thing. There's things that you love to do. But let me say, what would you love to do in this country? What would you love to do in your own home country? What would you love to do in your own home state? What would you love to do that you haven't done in your own city? Things that, just think a little bit about what that could be. Oh, could you think of 5 countries you'd love to go and visit? But if you write down the country, you're probably going to have to do a ... and say what you'd love to do there. Because, most countries have got so much to offer. Beautiful picture of Santorini, but in essence, it's also a cruise liner in the background. And, what do you think of 5 countries you'd love to visit? Could you think of a sport, or if you're not into sport, a concert, or if you're not into concerts, a cultural event that you'd love to go and experience? I'd love to go to a Winter Olympics. I've been to the Sydney Olympics, but is there something you'd love to? Is there a sporting activity you'd love to do? Sporting, or is there some sort? Maybe it's a World Cup, and fill in the gap. World Cup soccer, World Cup rugby, World Cup cricket, World Cup. Is it something like that? what is it that you'd love to experience? Is there a concert you'd love to go? Is there a recording artist? Is there a speaker you'd love to go and experience? Maybe you're ticking one of your lists off today, listening to me. In all humbleness, of course. But maybe it's something like that. What could it be? What could it be? Is there something you want to do in a particular country? I'd love to do. I'd love to definitely do. The dinner on the top of the Eiffel Tower. I know some of your diamonds have done this. But I think you just have to start to think a little bit about what are some of the things that you would love to achieve. And your goal, of course, is to get 100 done. Because now, why not 50, Keith? Why 100? Because I think 20. I think you can get 20 done. And I know some of you go, I'm struggling at the moment. Well, just get out of your own way. Why 100? Because I think once you get into the number, you start to get the real stuff. Because I think it's easy to write down, I want to drive this type of car, I want to live here, I want to be able to achieve this, I want this recognition and all that sort of stuff. But I think when you get to 100, you start to really, you start to dig deep. I have I shared this last night with with the leaders. I belong to a forum group. It's a group of guys. We get together every quarter, face to face. Every month we get together on Zoom, and once a year we go somewhere in the world, and we talk business and we talk life and we talk. In actual fact, we talk more about life than we do about business, but we're pretty business focused and we're very accountable to one another. So we have to put in our figures every month, and we have to put in the activities that we've done, and we have a fairly honest and brutal conversation sometimes. And one of the things that all of us have done is our list of 100. And all of us, every time we get together face to face, we tick things off our list of 100 and we add things to our list of 100 because it's such a powerful thing to do. So I've given you a chunk of time to put some things down. Here's what I can also share with you. I'd love you to, firstly, I'll tell you what would be a really cool thing to do. Get this activity done before you leave here. There'll be some pockets of time, go up, get dressed, come back down for recognition, but there'll be some pockets of time that you can actually finish this off. But get this finished and then share it with your upline. Share it with your leaders so they know who they're dealing with. And I just, without being too hard and, tough on you, I just don't think there's any reason why you should not be able to do this. I'm just a firm believer in that. I get that I get that it's not easy. Don't get me wrong. I get that it's not easy, but I also get that there's every reason in the world you should be able to do this. So we haven't done this yet, but we should do it. Is a little bit of interaction. So I'd love you to take a moment, and I'd love you to turn to the person you're sitting alongside. If you don't like that person, turn to the other person. By the way, if you brought that person, it's an awkward time, isn't it? Really, it really is a little, But I'd love you to turn to the person you're sitting alongside and actually share with them. And I know that you're with your, you're with your partner here. I used to be pre-COVID. I used to run a one-day workshop here on the Gold Coast, and I'd only do it once a year. I only do one public event a year, and I'd get people to do this. And most of the time, families come along and partners come along, and I'd say, take a moment, write out your list individually, then share it with the person you're sitting alongside. And normally that's their partner. And what was really fascinating? People would go, I've been married to you for 15 years. I never knew you want to do that. I don't know what they've been talking about for 15 years, by the way, but it's not that. And so I just think there's a good opportunity for you to share something with the person you're sitting alongside. And what was always interesting with those conversations? One of the partners will say, why aren't we doing it? Why aren't we doing it? Because what happens is most people get stuck. They get stuck, stale and stagnant in their life. They just get up, go to work, serve the customer, handle the challenge, look after the chaos, come home, have an alcohol injection and do it all over again. And then we get to go on 4 weeks of holidays. And the only thing that's different is we're just not going to work. And so I just think you need to have this. So here's what I'd love you to do. I've given you plenty of time. I've padded as much out as I can for those slow riders. I'd love you to turn to the person you sit alongside. And if you don't know them that well and you feel uncomfortable sharing with them, ask them to go first. And if I haven't stopped you, just keep on asking questions. And then I'll say, time's up, okay? And you're saved. So you have 20 seconds each. Do not tell them your life story. Oh, I dreamt about this as a young boy growing up in the backwaters of Coomera. No, just tell them what you want to achieve. And you, by the way, your goal for listening is to write one more down. Ready, steady, go. Can I have just a little bit of music? Thank you. All righty. Thank you. Thank your partner in the most appropriate way. Handshake, high five, hug, fist pump, whatever it is. Wow. You get people started, huh? You get them started. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah. Did you add more? You got to add one more to your list, by the way. You got to add one more to your list. Let me ask you this question. Did the person sitting alongside you say something that was neat, cool, or inspirational? Yes. Yeah. By the way, everyone has to answer yes just for the other person's self-esteem. Okay. I shared this with your leaders last night because the more I think about this, the more I am just exceptionally focused on helping people achieve their goals faster, easier, sooner, better. Often you'll hear people say to you, oh, you have to go and find your why. And here's what I think about that. That's bunkums. And I tell you the reason why. It's too hard. You've got to go and sit in a rock in the middle of a rainforest for 2 weeks to work it out. It's just too difficult. But I can get you to find your how, your what, and your why in about 60 seconds. And let me show you how. You see, often we'll say, let's start with why, but my belief is let's start with how. And the first question you want to ask yourself is, how do you want to feel? And I'm going to take you through a process here. I'm going to take you through a process to understand how you want to feel, because once you know how you want to feel, let's say you want to feel successful. Great, fantastic, great emotion. Let's say you want to feel successful. Great. So in the next 4 months, between now and October, what do you need to achieve for you to feel successful? Or happy, or purposeful. And then what you want to ask yourself, and I did this with a few people last night, I think I might have made some people very uncomfortable, but I'm out of here shortly. It's okay. The next question you want to ask yourself is, if I want to feel respected, then what do I need to achieve between now and October? If I want to feel respected, if I want to feel happy, if I want to feel purposeful, I want to feel organised in this business, what do I need to achieve? And then you ask yourself, why is that so important to you? Because once you know 5 reasons on why that's important to you, you then become connected, committed, and compelled to that goal. So let's talk about how we apply this in the real world. Firstly, understand that unless you have an emotional, mental, and physical connection to your goal, you truly won't be connected. Once you understand your emotional connection, your mental connection, and your physical connection to your goal, once you know those 3 elements, then you become committed, compelled, and connected. Why do you need to become committed, compelled, and connected to your goal? So you do the uncomfortably inconvenient and the unknown. Goal setting is all about doing what other people will not do to accomplish the things that people will never be able to obtain, because they're not prepared to do the work. They're not prepared to do the hard work. So when we look at these 3 and we now say, okay, let's look at what you want to achieve personally. Now, by the way, This is on page 8. You can go away and do this, but I want to just focus on one area. So there are 4 key areas to set your goals in. One's personal, one's physical, one is profitable. One is about, when I say profitable, we often talk about profitability in companies, but I just believe the profitability of an individual is really important. And that revolves around your financial goals, the savings, the purchases that you want to make. But I want to spend some time on your professional goal, which is your business. And I want to spend the time on that. And what does that look like? It could be the amount of money you want to earn. It could be the number of team members you're going to bring along next time. It could be the number of pace setters that you have in your group, or being a consistent pace setter yourself. And it could be even just the people in your business that are at core. I hope I've got all that language right. But professionally, what do you want to accomplish? And that's where I want to spend the time. I want to spend the time and actually walk you through what I call a blueprint. So, first thing I want you to think about, next 4 months. So why do I say 4 months? Because it's 4 months from here to October. 4 months to the next event, 4 months to national convention. So I want you to think about what you want to achieve in your business in the next 4 months. Now, for the people that are new here, you might need to have a chat with your upline. If this is your first event, you've never been to an event like this before, and you're going, my goodness, I've never done so many squats in my life, getting up and down off these chairs. You might need to have a conversation, but you don't need to know the business to know what you want to achieve out of the business. And that could be, as I said before, it could be, I want to bring some more people to this. I want to increase. I want to have an extra, I don't know, $500 a month coming in. Or I want to be able to walk across this stage. Or I'm tired of hearing what happened on the Friday night and nobody telling me what happened. And so I want to be in that room. So I want you to think about what you want to accomplish in the next 4 months. And once again, this is a real practical session. This is not let me go away and think about that for a while. No, this is about getting clear on it here. You will not get another opportunity like this working with me and actually having you do the work. If you think you're going to walk out there and you'll get distracted. You'll get distracted. So let's walk you through the process. The first step, this page 10 on your work, but the first step here is you have to work out how you want to feel. Following my solution of how, what, why, we're going to work through these 6 steps. So what's in page 10? So page 10, in actual fact, on page 9, I talk about what I call goal drivers. And you don't need to read page 9, but let me explain it what it is. Here's what I did. Back in 2014, I started a research project, 9 years of research, to work out what drives people emotionally so they can help achieve their goals faster, easier, and sooner. Here's what we found. It actually didn't matter about your why, and it didn't matter about your what. It mattered about how you wanted to feel. It mattered that you needed to know how. So of the 135 different emotions you can experience as an adult, 64 of them are positive. Of those 64, they break down to what I call 8 goal drivers. These are the 8 emotions that drive all of us to do the uncomfortable, the inconvenient, and the unknown. Let me share them. Well, here's what our research told us. And by the way, from this research, we created a diagnostic tool called Goal Driver. I worked with a PhD in psychometric testing and a PhD in statistical analysis. Both very, very exceptional, outstanding women who were able to take all of the knowledge and the research we had and put it into something we could share with you today. So here's what we found. People want to feel successful. What does that look like in reality? They wanted to create momentum in their life, or in their business, or in their finances, or in their relationships they wanted to create. The second is that people wanted to feel purposeful. What does that look like? They wanted to leave something that was going to last. A legacy, something that's bigger than them, outside of them, lives on after them. The third was inspired. People wanted to feel inspired. What does that look like? They wanted to have an impact on other people. The next one was that we found out that people wanted to feel happy. And I know you might say, well, that's obvious, Keith, but what we found is that people wanted to experience joy. In other words, they wanted to be joyful, and their love language of joy was about doing things for others. We also found that people wanted to feel relaxed. And what I mean by relaxed, in that their life was not Every day was not a battle. They wanted to feel like they were in flow, not putting out fires, not making, there's this thing around decision-making fatigue. Most corporate people suffer from this, they have to make a decision every moment. Should we hire this person, fire that person? Should we go in this market? Should we do this? Should we do that? And they get decision fatigue. Let me tell you, the diamonds that sit in the back room, they don't suffer from decision fatigue because they've got the stress of doing everything. And I loved what you said this morning, Sonia, about the piece around, or it might have been Mitch who said it this morning, the whole, before 9 is about health, and up to 12 is about health, and after 12 is about wealth. And I thought, what a great philosophy. Very few people get a chance to do that. The next is that people want to feel confident, and what they mean by that is they want to actually back themselves. And the next piece is about people want to feel respected. So confident is about me being the best version of me and me liking me more than anybody else likes me. Respected is about being masterful at what you do, at whatever you want to do. And it might be just mastering self. And then the final one there is organised, is about being in control of the things that you can control. So let me ask you the first question. How do you want to feel about your Network 21 business in the next 4 months? Between now and October, you have to pick one of those 8. People often say to me, "Oh, Keith, can I pick 2? Yeah, you can. You can have a primary driver and a secondary driver. And how do you want to feel about your business in the next 4 months? So can you write that down on the top of your handout on page 10 there, or circle one of them? You could circle one of them. By the way, sometimes people say to me, "Oh, can I circle all 8, Keith? They look all wonderful. I'd like to circle all of them." And here's what I'd love to share with you is that let's talk about decision making later, okay? So you got that done? Okay, so now you have realised how you want to feel. The second question I want to ask you is this. The second question is, what's the goal? By the way, just before I go any further, anybody want to share with me how do you want to feel? You want to feel successful, respected? Anybody else? Organised, lovely. Anybody else? Purposeful, relaxed. Good. Okay, so you get this. Brilliant group. Best group I've spoken to today. So here's what I want you to write down. You now need to write down what you actually want to achieve. But, let me give you the but. Oh, but's a terrible word. Let's say, however, you have to be specific. See, some people write down, "Oh, Keith, I want to stand on stage." Well, what the hell does that mean? You come in early, you can stand on stage. You could come in a couple of days before and help them build the stage. I mean, you have to be specific. So obviously your leaders know your business so much better than me, but let's look at a couple of key areas. It could be the number of people that you bring with you. So in that little box, that little cloud, I want you to write in what's the goal. And so the goal is, Keith, I want to be Leaders Club. I want to be double pace setter. I want to be core. I want to have 5 team members with me and their core. I want to bring 20 team members. I had a chat with someone yesterday in the elevator, and they said, "I brought 20 people here today." And so that was their goal. They wanted to bring 20 people. Great goal, because if people get here, people get motivated, people get enthused, people get engaged, people get empowered. So what's the goal you want to achieve in the next few months? Maybe it's, Keith, I don't know too much about this business, but if I could earn an extra, fill in the gap, if I can earn an extra $100 a week, $500 a month, $1,000 a month, whatever the number is, if I could do that, I can then go to my upline and say, "Tell me what I've got to do to earn that." Because I'll know the formula, they'll know the beautiful part about every one of your leaders is they know the process. That's the great part. And of course the date. So what did we say October was? 26, 27, 28? Was that a good guess? Yep. So that could be the date. Or you might go, "I actually need to qualify for that before I get there." If it's a pin level, or if it's a revenue level. So I want you just to make sure you've got the date, because We work best to timelines. I shared this with the leaders last night. We work best to timelines. What's the most productive day of the year? Day before you go on holidays. Why? Because you've got a deadline. So write down the goal you want to achieve. What do you want to accomplish? And by the way, this is an activity you need to do now. So I see a few people not filling in the gaps. Yeah, well, I don't know what I could say there, but that would be polite. So what's the goal? What's the goal you want to achieve? And what's the date you want to achieve by? If you're not sure, I get it. But you better not leave here. You better not leave here without having this completed. Because you'll have just had a good time, and I'm if you haven't worked me out yet, I enjoy a good time as well. But I think if you're really serious about evolving, then you've got to commit. You've got to commit. Is it okay if I just talk to you like that and not just all the happy stuff was this morning. That was all my best content. This is like okay. So what's the goal? What's the goal you want to achieve? The more detail, the better. Why is the detail so important? I want you to understand why I'm really focused on getting you to write down absolute clarity around what you want. Vague goals, write this down. Vague goals equal vague results. I want to, it's the example. I want to walk across stage. Or, somebody says, I want to be healthier. What does that mean? Is that 1 kilo less? Is it you can walk up 2 flights of steps without a defibrillator hanging off you? What is it? Be really conscious around it. And here's the reason why. In the back of your head is a thing called a reticular activating system. It is your ability to bring your subconscious and your consciousness together and interlock to be able to help you focus on the most important thing you need to do. The only way you can engage that is give it clarity. And I'll share with you how it works. Has anybody ever thought about a car you wanted to own? And as you drive around, you see them everywhere. Oh, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one. Wow, they got so popular, so I chose it. It doesn't work like that. It's because you're now focused on it. Your subconscious and your conscious say, we're looking for this. By the way, it works for prospects. You have to feed the universe, the ether, out there exactly what you want. And the world has a funny way of bringing it to your doorstep. If you are looking and if you are working. The third piece of the puzzle is tell me 5 reasons why this goal is so important to you. Because unless you can tell me 5 reasons why this goal is so important to you, any excuse will do. Too hot, too cold, too few, too many, too hard, too easy. Oh, COVID, Keith, I'm still getting over COVID. And any reason will do. Everybody I talk to says no. You're just not talking to enough people. Just not talking to enough people. How many people are you talking to? Oh, I spoke to 2. Who were they? I spoke to both my brother-in-laws. Fantastic. Great prospects. Elmer Fuds. You say to your partner, let's go to your brother-in-law's place this year for Christmas. And you say, but you don't like them. I know, but we can leave when we're ready. You ever try leaving your own home with guests? I thought Keith and Christine were just going out for a bag of ice. That was 5 hours ago. Should we lock up and leave? What do we do? Should we feed the cat and the dog before we go? 5 reasons why. Here's the next one. The next one is, let's be honest now. If you want to grow your Network 21 business, I want you to write down 1 thing you need to start doing and 1 thing you need to stop doing. And you know what? It could be simple stuff. It could be, Keith, I need to start listening to the audios. I need to start having a one-on-one conversation with my upline. I need to start prospecting people. You know what, Keith? I'm shy. I'm a little bit nervous. Okay, so just go and start talking to people. For the next month, just go and talk to people without any expectation. Just go and start talking to people. What is it that you need to start doing? What is it that you need to stop doing? Maybe you just need to stop scrolling. Maybe you need to stop doubting. Oh, can I do this? Well, why don't you pretend for the next 4 months that you can do it like nobody else can do it? Why don't you just pretend? Why don't you just pretend and turn up and not have an expectation where people are going to say yes, people are going to say no? Because if you're doing the work, you will get the results. We have everybody say yes, no, of course not. But sooner or later, what happens is the world has a funny way of going, geez, they're serious. Let's give them the opportunities. So what's one thing you need to start doing? What's one thing you need to stop doing as part of it? Let me ask this question. Who here wrote down they need to stop procrastinating? Anybody like that? Yeah. Normally when I ask that question, by the way, people put their hand up like this. Yeah, can I get back to you on that? I'm not quite sure. I don't want to commit an answer just yet. Do you want to know the secret of beating procrastination forever? The real secret is, firstly, buy my focus book. But the second really simple answer is, here's the answer. Forget about finishing it. Forget about finishing it. See, too many of you are thinking about how do I be a platinum? How do I be a diamond? How do I be an emerald? Forget about it. Forget about that. And when I say forget about it, have it in your top of mind as the goal, but focus all your attention on taking the first step. The day you take the first step, you've beaten procrastination, and the day you take the first step, you're more inclined to take the next and the next and the next. Start without being good. Here's the next piece of the puzzle. You got to work out what the next step is. You got to think, okay, what's the next step for me? What's the first next right step for me? Some of you may not know that. Some of you think you might know it, and it's not right. But I want you to start with something. So at least when you go and talk to your upline, you say, I think the next first step is this, and they'll say, you're right on track, or perhaps your first next step is this. You can't go with a blank piece of paper because they can't work with that. Here's the thing with all of your leaders. They're so lovely. They're not going to have a conversation. Oh my goodness, Larry, Mary has turned without anything written down, and they're going to smile and go, well, let me help you do it. Yeah. You've got to be respectful to say, let me turn up with something that's not right, but we can change it, adjust it, modify it. And just to show them you're serious, because you've got to work out what your next step is. And the final piece is that you've got to build a momentum mindset. What does a momentum mindset look like? You have to pick a lane. If you want to create a momentum mindset, there's a couple of things that you need to start to do. You need to be clear on picking a mindset. Now, I'm going to cut you a break here and say the mindset I want you to choose for the next 30 days, you might change it the 30 days after. But I believe there are 6 key mindsets. Here's the first one. What would happen in your business, in your life, if you were more tenacious? See, my belief is tenacity wins every race. Tenacity, I don't have to finish first. I just have to finish. So tenacity wins. I've been doing this now, as I said earlier this morning, I've been doing this for 28 years. People in my industry come and go in, like trends and fads. And people say, you've got such great longevity. When I speak to my speaker friends, they say you have great longevity in the business. And here's the reason why. I am tenacious. That is my one and only superpower. I just don't know when to quit. And I plough on, because I just need to be tenacious. So is it tenacity? Is it courageous? Do you need to be more courageous? What does that look like? Well, let me ask this question. From the top of your head to the soles of your feet and every cell in your body in between, what would happen if you turned up and you were more courageous? Who would you approach? Who would you ask? Who would you show? What would you do? How would you walk, talk, think? What would you say to yourself and what would you say to others if you were more courageous? If you had more self-love, if you stopped being your worst enemy, your harshest critic, and started to become your greatest coach and you're the most sensational, excited cheerleader for you, how would you turn up? How would you walk? How would you talk? How would you think? What would you say to yourself? What would you say to others if you had greater self-love? What would happen in your life if you felt limitless? I have limitless opportunities and I have limitless energy to take advantage of. How would you turn up? How would you walk? How would you talk? How would you think? What would you say to yourself? What would you say to others if you were limitless? What would happen in your life if you were empowered? If you were prepared to step into your potential? You are no longer waiting for others to give you permission. You are no longer waiting for someone else to anoint you, to approve of you. What would happen in your life if you were empowered? What would happen in your life if you were grateful? I had this conversation with somebody last night. I had a conversation with someone this morning, I should say. Because here's what I believe. I think it's really easy to be grateful. I'm so blessed. Hashtag so blessed. Oh, I think it's really easy when everything's great. But you've got to be grateful when it's crappy. Yeah. Because you learn more from the tragedy than from the triumph. But you will never embrace the learning until you accept, you learn from that disappointment, that tragedy, that whatever it was that you feel that you've been done wrong by. Somebody shafted you, somebody done the wrong thing by you, until you find the gratitude in the stuff that doesn't work, you'll never find the joy in life. Because the tragedy will always control you. So for the next 30 days, which one of those is going to be your momentum mindset? Write that down for me, please. Let's talk momentum. I shared this with the leaders last night. Momentum defeats doubt. I'll put that back and have a crack at that again because I know some people are writing down. But momentum defeats doubt. And the one thing I can say to you is that if you have momentum, a challenge comes up and it's like no big deal. You go over it, you go around it, you go through it to get what you want. But you've got to have momentum. You've got to get on this cycle. You've got to get on this momentum cycle. And what does that look like? Everything we've talked about. Set a goal. Take action. From that goal, you get a result. Sometimes the result is success. Sometimes it's just a learning experience. And you enhance your mindset. You learn from it. But you've got to get a goal, you've got to take action, and you've got to get a result. And it doesn't matter what the result is. Someone said yes, somebody said no, somebody joined you and then they quit the day later and they dropped a box of product off at your door. Don't worry about it. Goal, action, result, mindset. So what do you need to do to be making sure you do that? You got to invest in yourself. You've got to take the time to read. And look, and there is a ton of great books out on Network 21's table there. There's a ton of great books that is available to you that'll help you make things happen. So whether it's my books, whether it's somebody else's books, but the one thing I'd say to you is if you want to continue to grow and develop, you have to do 4 things. You have to read, you have to listen, you have to learn, and you have to be mentored. They're the 4 keys. The only reason that I'm standing on this stage today is because I have had great mentors. A number of people were very kind and gracious with me and said, Keith, I think Angie came up to me and said, it's the best I've ever seen you, which is very kind, Angie, thank you. In the last 10 years, I've had 6 world-class presenter coaches work with me because I want to become better. I want to become better at telling a story, at using a pause, at being able to use the stage. But it's about making sure that you take the time and the energy to understand yourself and to be better at what you do, to create the momentum. My time is just about up with you, but I wanted to sort of, do a couple of things here with you. I want to just talk a little bit about how do you develop your determination. In essence, what I'm asking you to do is develop your belief. And so if you think of it, there are 6 things that you need to do to develop your belief. Here's the first one, evidence of progress. each of us need to feel like we are making progress. So what do you need to do about evidence of progress? You need to do something, and you need to know that you're doing something. You need to make some sort of progress. And you know what? It is okay that you your progress is here, 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 here. Progress is never a straight line. I think too many of us connect progress with perfection, and what we need to understand is sometimes you will make progress and sometimes you will go backwards, you will go sideways. But as long as you are focused and moving forward, here's the next piece of the puzzle. Prioritise and execute. You have to prioritise and execute. Whatever plan you have today may not be the plan that will work Monday. I shared this with the leaders last night. I said, that great historical philosopher, Mike Tyson, said, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And understand this, I just want you to understand that you're going to go out of here and you're going to implement the strategies that you'll hear from your leaders, and it may not go to plan for that person. It'll go to plan in the long run, but too many of us give up. We go, it's not working. No. It's not that it's not working, it's that you're not working it longer. You have to work it longer. Here's the third one. The third one is really read, listen, watch and learn, as I said before, and that's why, we put products and tools together and things like that for you. And all I say to you, if it's not mine, then buy somebody else's. And say to your leader, what do I need to read next? What do I need to watch next? What do I need to, when do I have my next mentoring session with you? Ask that question. If you do nothing else, then read, listen, watch and learn. Then you'll become better. I guarantee you'll become a better person. You'll become better with your family. You'll become better at your day job. You'll become better with friends. You'll become better in this business. You'll become better. Nobody has ever been able to accomplish anything without doing those four. There is people, I do a fair bit of mentoring with a first grade cricket team in Brisbane, and the people who go on and get contracts, that's my thing. Give me the best and brightest and I'll get them a contract. I'll get them to a point where I'll get a contract. Why? Because I go through everything I'm doing here with you. But none of them got there on natural talent. They might have got picked in an under 16 side, an under 17 side on just talent and giftability. But they never go any further because all of a sudden they go, this is hard now, this is tough. Here's the next. I think the one question you've got to ask yourself now is what's important now? Which really comes back to the next step. You have to ask your upline, what's the next step? I mean, some of you already know what the next step is. You've been around for a while, but some of you know what the next step is, but what's the next step? The next is you got to feed your focus, starve your distractions. Feed your focus, starve your distractions. Not the other way around. Let me feed my distractions. Let me scroll, let me Instagram, let me go and talk to everybody, let me procrastinate, let me tidy up, let me reorganize my Excel spreadsheet. Focus, feed your focus. And the last one here is mentoring accelerates achievement. Mentoring accelerates achievement. The only reason I'm standing here is because I have had great mentors all the way through. Most of my mentors I've paid for, but I was fortunate when I first got started is I sat and had a cup of coffee with a guy who I looked up to and I said, I want to have a business like him. And he was gracious enough to say, tell me what you're trying to achieve. I want to achieve this. Great. Here's what you have to do. And I went away from Graham and I just did exactly what I needed to do and I had some success. And just so you know, I have 2 mentors currently. I have a mentor personally and I have a mentor for my business. And every time I think I know it, that's when if you think you know, if you're not humble enough to sit at the feet of a master, you'll never ever be masterful. You'll never have what you want to achieve. I want to share this last message with you as a way of stopping beating yourself up. This was shared to me by one of my mentors, a really wise lady that I see every month. So I see my mentors, both of them, every month. And, you know, one I go out for a steak dinner with, and the other I sit down and lay on a couch type of thing, and have a let's talk about life and the universe and why I'm ticked off or why I'm excited or whatever it might be. And she shared this with me, and it just had such a profound effect on me. You know what happens? It's the story we tell ourselves, yes, but it's the conversation I have in my head. And let me ask this question. How many of you are having this conversation? Am I worthy? Am I deserving? Am I good enough? Am I able to achieve my goals and dreams? Am I platinum material? And really, every time you say an internal question like that, you diminish your belief. Because when you constantly question yourself, your internal voice constantly questions yourself, it wears you down, it defeats you. In actual fact, it's the ego trying to control you. But what we have to do is we have to move from am I to I am. Because one's a question and this is an affirmation. I am good enough, I am worthy, I am deserving, I am capable, I am a platinum in the making. I am Leaders Club material. I am emerald. I am a diamond. We have to move our language. Does this make sense to you? Yeah. If you can control your language and move from questioning yourself continuously to affirming yourself continuously, you will evolve. And you will start to become the person you want to become. You will start to achieve. You will forget about finishing and focus all your energy here and what you need to do next. A good friend of mine had a chance to interview Edmund Hillary before he passed away, and he asked him the question, what was it like when you got to Everest? And to his surprise, he said, I thought it was too high, I thought it was too hard, I thought it was too bloody cold. And my mate said, what'd you do? And he said, simple. I just focused on putting one foot after the other. If you want to accomplish anything in your life, in your business, in your relationships, in your finances, take the first step. It's been a delight being with you. I'm honoured and blessed to have the opportunity. Thank you very much.